I now look to Bernard Cazeneuve to close the case for the opposition.
Mr. President, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here tonight to debate a dilemma which we all face. And I have the opportunity to address as French Minister of the Interior. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your invitation. It is an honor for me, and I would also like to thank the member of my team, Colin and Avril, for their excellent speeches. And I am very happy, Secretary of State, to debate with you this evening. I wanted to have this debate. That's why I began to learn English this morning in order to speak with you this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not believe that we sacrificed our liberty for a false promise of security. When our democracy responds to the security issues raised by terrorism, they truly are defending our liberties. Our democracies have a long history of facing terrorism. In the past decades, we experienced terrorism from the far right, the far left, or extreme nationalism. But terrorism we are facing today, Daesh terrorism, has distinctive characteristics which make it seem new and more terrible than its predecessors. First, due to its global audience and modern means of communication. I would like to thank Jay Johnson for stating that we have surrendered a great deal of our privacy to the Internet. Internet is indeed a key topic in our debate. Encrypted messaging services have made the detection of terrorists harder, while social media have made their message even more disparate. And second, due to its use of extreme brutality, it has become a worldwide threat. Since the beginning of this year, many countries have suffered, in Africa, in the Middle East, and in Europe, of course. This new threat requires all the old standard remedies, and some new ones as well, both at European level and national level. It also challenges the effort the state must accomplish to maintain the best balance between civil liberties and security. I served my country as Minister of the Interior from April 2014 until December 2016, 1,000 days. In that space of time, France faced a string of terror attacks that killed more than 200 people. There were a series of blows that took a dreadful toll in lives lost and lives ruined. They struck fear in every French heart. When terrorists broke into an editorial meeting and murdered journalists in Paris in January 2015, the freedom of expression was their target. When terrorists assaulted a concert hall packed with music lovers in Paris in November 2015, the freedom of assembly cherished by all French citizens was attacked. When terrorists cut the throat of a priest during Mass in Normandy, in my department, in July 2016, freedom of religion enjoyed by all French people, including those of no religion, was trampled on. When terrorists planned an attack on a political rally during the presidential election campaign in March 2017, the functioning of our democracy, the freedom of vote, was directly menaced. When a terrorist stabbed 2 women to death in Marseille train station a few days ago, in October, our freedom of movement was threatened. When terrorists cowardly killed or tried to kill policemen or soldiers on duty, as it happened a dozen times in France, our right to security is endangered. And when a terrorist drove a truck to its families gathered to attend the celebration on Bastille Day in Nice in 2016, it is our national motto, liberty, equality, fraternity, which was offended. How do we react? With pain, of course, but also no awareness of the direct assault on our freedoms, our values, tolerance, respect for the rule of law, fundamental liberty, the right to life. All of these are hated and despised by Daesh because they ensure the cohesion of our democratic societies. It is at moments like this that we are called upon to exercise personal and political judgment to find the right balance. Exceptional times request exceptional measures. We need new tools to combat terrorism effectively, but these very tools must not in practice harm the rights and freedoms they are meant to protect. This balance, ladies and gentlemen, I am aware of that, is very delicate. There can be no doubt about it. Let me take the French example. I am not willing to generalize, but being often called the land of human rights and having suffered heavily from terrorism, I find it a pretty good example. While I was in office, I heard the concerns that reinforcing our measures to combat terrorism might someday be abused, that anti-terrorism measures might be misused to suppress challenging opinions and legitimate opponents. My response to those concerns is the rule of law. The government always exercises its judgment in choosing the response it deems appropriate within the power it is granted by the laws and the Constitution. The clear and present danger posed by Daesh justifies the talking of exceptional measures granted by the law to prevent the terrorists from striking again, to avoid exposing ourselves to a real threat on our liberties. I have no regrets. I would do the same again in like circumstances. I have good reason to doubt that anyone else in my position, including some of my most ardent critics, would have acted differently. After the attack on Paris and neighboring cities in November 2015, President Hollande chose to declare a state of emergency. The state of emergency has been renewed ever since. These exceptional measures authorize the house arrest of persons considered dangerous, as well as searches and seizures. Those measures help investigation. It also helped thwart around 30 terrorist attacks, targeting school, sport event, public transport, military zone, place of worship, nightclubs. This proves that the state of emergency was necessary to protect the population, but also to protect freedom. We wanted also to organize the control of the Parliament on the measures we decided to take at this moment. Montesquieu, the French 18th century lawyer and political philosopher, who gave us all this theory of the separation of powers, believed, and I quote, that to avoid the abuse of power it is necessary from the very nature of things that power should be a check to power. It is to me the one principle which must guide the functioning of the state at all times, including during the state of emergency. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, security and liberty are two common goods. Daesh terrorism is aimed at the heart of our way of life, and states cannot afford to drop their guard. The risk is too high. We have been constrained into reinforcing security measures to safeguard the liberty of our citizens. Those measures, decided by the executive power, can only be implemented under the control of the Parliament and the judiciary in compliance with the rule of law and the separation of powers. The barbarity of Daesh has not panicked us into forgetting our fundamental values, but it recalled the precious paradox of a lawyer from ancient Rome, Cicero the Younger, I quote, "We are slaves of the law, so what we may be free, and I might add, civilized." Additional security measures appropriately scrutinized and checked for the duration of heightened terrorist threat are not too high, a price to pay to the safeguard of our liberty and way of life. Therefore, I oppose the motion.